We're talking about the H1N1 and want to make sure that you get facts from both sides. We have a couple of doctors here. One is for, one is against. Dr. Kent Holtorf, he is board-certified endocrinologist. He is an expert in infectious diseases. Dr. Mark Siegel, he is Fox News medical contributor and associate professor of medicine at New York University, Langone Medical Center. Dr. Siegel's new ebook is Swine Flu, the New Pandemic. It is available this week. Okay, first of all, do you guys both find it reasonable that people are skeptical in today's society on this swine flu thing?
I think people should be skeptical. I don't think people should take what people say for granted, especially the government. Now, you were about to say the government has gotten it wrong before. And so when the current administration says 1.8 million people are going to be hospitalized by this, they're talking totally out of their hat. They have no science behind it. That's the president's new science advisors, who have no expertise in flu whatsoever. I don't get my answers from the government. You got to go to the sources, to flu researchers, to people that really deal with these vaccines, and people who really deal with influenza. Some of them are working for the CDC, and some of them are not. You can't take the government word on this.
I'll have to agree with that. I mean, that's the big problem, is even research is tainted on who funds the research. So you have to really look at funding and the basis of what are the vested interests in these people doing the research or giving out the information.
Okay, the thing that they have out now is the nasal spray. Is that live?
It's a live attenuated virus, so it's a weakened virus.
Okay, the problem, and please
no clause on it. It's been totally deactivated. It is alive, and it can get you sick if you're immunocompromised or if you have asthma or if you're pregnant. You can only take it if you're totally healthy. It cannot morph into the flu itself.
That was my question. Why can't it?
Well, because it's already been declawed. It's already been deactivated. It's alive, but it's not capable of infecting. And
so then the shot is dead virus.
Correct.
Correct?
Correct.
Now, may I ask, it's my understanding that it's a two-stage shot for the dead virus, right?
No. It was. But they did a lot of research over this summer that showed that one shot is sufficient over the age of 9 years old.
What I understand is there is a shot that, and maybe because I think there's 5 different companies now and 5 different, which is a little weird too, I'd like to get into. But there is something that I was told that one of the problems that we had in 1976 is it was causing neurological damage. Well, now there's a shot that they're coming out with, apparently we've used it before on other things, that it actually makes a pathway. It lays down a ladder or a network inside the body.
Yeah, well, you can see what they're doing. They're basically try this, try that. They're kind of going along, working these things out as they go. And that's what we're saying. Is this really tested? That's what it's going to be. It was a 2-phase shot before. Now they go, oh, we don't need that. So to say that it's been tested, no, they don't need that anymore.
Because there was a study in the New England Journal of Medicine about 3 weeks ago and a couple of other studies that showed that this vaccine caused a strong immunological response and works with 1 dose. By the way, when you talked about 1976, I totally agree on that point. The CDC was press conferencing and building up this public fear. They vaccinated 40 million people hastily. A lot of this is the CDC's fault, and there was no pandemic. That's a huge difference, because now there is a pandemic, but it's mild. 76 shows how we can't trust the government to give us answers like this.
Well, yeah, but it wasn't just that there was no pandemic. It was also that the vaccination
wasn't safe.
Was very dangerous.
That's right.
Now,
but they didn't know. That's what we don't know now.
Well, it's not true. The vaccine in 1976 caused probably 500 to 1,000 cases of Guillain-Barré syndrome, ascending paralysis. Terrible. People died from this vaccine. 40 million people got it. It was a rare complication. It was a hastily made vaccine, and they shouldn't have been giving it to people. The vaccine we're having now, 35 years later, 33 years later, is the same as the yearly flu shot, only we're plugging in a different virus. From everything like this,
there's multiple versions.
But this took 6 months to make this vaccine. That took 2 months.
But wait. Okay, first of all, why haven't we made, when we were, freaked out about the bird flu and then the avian flu and everything else, why didn't we just take the flu virus then and just plug in the avian flu? What makes this so different that we can just say, oh, well, we'll just take this out and put this in and then we're good?
It's a great question. We do it every year. Every year we plug the virus of the moment in.
But we didn't do it with the other ones.
We did it with the avian flu, but we didn't have the success we're having now. In other words, every year we try to make vaccines using whatever virus is around. And sometimes we get a good result and sometimes we don't.
What kind of testing has this gone through? Do you know?
And I mean, what the problem is, you get it from the drug company. Say, well, it's tested. There's multiple versions. Say, okay, it's fine. Let's do this version. Oh, we need 2 shots, but now you need 1 shot. So it's kind of this, as we go and then do a study. Okay, it's safe. We don't know what the consequences are, but I think that is a minor point to really vaccines in general. I think modulating the immunity and the thimerosal issue.
Glenn, one point. No, thank you. After the show.
I didn't know if anybody wanted to.
I'm still on the French fries. One point I want to make is we did 24 clinical trials this year.
Yeah.
Usually with the seasonal flu, we don't do any. We do a couple, 2 or 3. This vaccine has been very well tested, more than we usually do.
Okay, let's go back to autism, because I have friends who, I mean, they have had their child vaccinated, and then the next one, and the next one, and autism, and they are convinced that it is the vaccines.
And let's just look at common sense. You're a common sense guy. You wrote the book on common sense. Well, let's talk about the thimerosal. You're basically injecting a neurotoxin that is 25,000 times the concentration that would be considered toxic if it was a food. It was a can of tuna, 25,000 times that concentration. When you inject it, it goes up to 200 times the level that's considered toxic in the serum, deposits in the brain. Now, you look at the studies, they say, oh, it comes out of the serum very quickly after days. It actually, because it goes into the cells in the brain, lasts years. And so why would you inject a neurotoxin?
Well, let me ask you this. Why, if it's so mild, why wouldn't we just have a chickenpox party? Why wouldn't we just get ourselves, go, hey, come on, cough on me?
First of all, because it isn't always mild, and the problem is with a swine flu party is it can escape to your neighbor that's pregnant or your neighbor that's an asthmatic kid. You can't control it. It spreads too easily. Even though it's mild, it spreads too easily.
But what you're saying is that you should be able to risk a long-term neurological complication to help your neighbor.
Right.
I mean, that's nice of you, but is that your right to tell someone else to do that?
I'm not agreeing with that point. I agree with you that thimerosal should be out of vaccines. And to Glenn's point before the break, it's out of every vaccine now that we use, except for this one.
Except for the flu.
Except for the flu, but you can get it without thimerosal.
But that's only going to be a small percentage.
You can go to your pediatrician and say to your pediatrician, I don't trust this thimerosal, even though Dr. Siegel says it's probably safe, and the FDA and the Institute of Medicine say it's safe. It's been studied in 6 major clinical trials.
Let me hang on just a second. Doctors saying. Go ahead.
I believe that something in the environment is causing this increase in autism.
Okay.
But I also debated the guy that wrote the book, Evidence of Harm, and he agrees with me it's not thimerosal.
Okay, can I mention about autism? When you look at the immune system, there's basically 2 sides of the immune system, a cellular and a hormonal. They're usually in balance. Now, what happens is with multiple immunizations, multiple vaccinations without thimerosal, it drives it in that hormonal way, and it basically becomes imbalanced. So what you get, you're more prone to these conditions that have that imbalance. What does that include? Autism, ADHD, asthma, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia. Those are exploding in the environment. So what's going on? I think it's vaccine related.
I am riddled with ADHD, and it's worked out really well for me so far. Now listen,
it can be a benefit.
America, I don't know if this is helping you at all, because you see what's happening here? You're getting both sides, and you're like, okay, well, that's not helping me. We're not going to tell you what to do on this program. You're going to have to do your own homework on this one, because this is a personal decision. However, the government may step in, and there's some nasty rumors on the internet, and we will show those to you and debunk them or prove them coming up. More with the doctors ahead.